Well, good evening, Cedar Falls, and welcome to our regular City Council meeting for October 17th, 2022. I'll now call this meeting to order with a roll call from Madam Clerk.
Schultz. I think he texted me and said he was on, but
Yes, Councilmember Schultz, I show you as muted right now. There we are. You here with us, Gil?
Gil's here. Gil's here.
Excellent. Thank you.
DeBoer, Cruz,
Aye.
Harding,
Here.
Gamfield,
Here.
Sires,
Here.
Dunn. Here. Councilmember DeBoer absent, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And now I will bring us over to the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight, we have Altrusa. They're going to be receiving a special proclamation tonight, and Amy Jardin and the Altrusa ladies will be leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you could please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Madam Clerk, do we have any agenda revisions tonight?
I have no agenda revisions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. So that takes us to special presentations tonight.
Excuse me. I think we need to approve the
Oh,
minutes.
excuse me, yes. So for approval of minutes, is there a motion to approve the regular meeting of October 3rd, 2022?
So moved.
Point of order. And the special meeting, can we do them together or do we have to do them separate?
We can do them together if you like.
might as well.
I move to approve the regular and special meeting minutes.
Okay, so we'll move to-
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, those are approved. Just move this a little bit here. Bear with me a moment.
That one.
That's better. So those minutes have been approved, and that moves us over to agenda revisions. Do we have any agenda revisions tonight, Madam Clerk?
I have no agenda revisions,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Appreciate your correction on the order. For special presentations tonight, I have a proclamation recognizing October 19th, 2022 as Gentleman Day. Do we have a representative from Waypoint Services with us tonight? I know they said they weren't sure they'd be able to make it. So I'll just read the presentation from here. So Gentleman Day, October 19th, 2022. Whereas 1 in 3 women will experience domestic violence during her lifetime, and whereas intimate partner violence impacts victims, children, family, friends, and the community at large, and whereas domestic violence is not confined to any group or groups of people, but is experienced in all economic, racial, ethnic, educational, societal, and religious groups, and is sustained by societal indifference. And whereas perpetrators of domestic violence should be held accountable for their actions, and victims should have access to support and services to help them overcome their experience. And whereas it is important to recognize the compassion and dedication of the individuals who provide support to victims of intimate partner violence and work to increase public understanding of this significant problem. And whereas only coordinated effort from all community members will put a stop to this heinous crime. Now therefore, I, Robert M. Green, Mayor of Cedar Falls, do hereby proclaim October 19th, 2022 as Gentleman Day throughout the city in support of Waypoint Services for ending domestic violence in our community. And I further encourage all citizens to work together to end the scourge of domestic violence. Signed this 11th day of October, 2022, Mayor Robert M. Green. And although they didn't provide a rep tonight, they wanted to note Gentleman Day is especially listed as such because of the role that men play in stopping domestic violence and the consideration, dignity, and respect that the men especially are asked to show to others in the bettering of our world, and hence the name Gentleman Day. So with that, heading over to Altrusa Make a Difference Day. I'll go to the podium for that. And I'm delighted to have longtime community booster Amy Jardin with us tonight. And with that, the presentation for your organization is Altrusa Make a Difference Day. Whereas the Altrusa Institute was founded in 1917 by Dr. Alfred Durham to meet the need for civic organizations where business and professional women could meet and exchange ideas. And whereas in June 1918, at its first convention, the Altrusa Institute became a classified service organization for women, fulfilling the vision of Mamie L. Bass. And whereas vocational education for women is one of Altrusa's national policies, including scholarships and guidance for young women and older women as well. And whereas Altrusa adopted literacy promotion as an ongoing mission in 1977. And whereas Altrusa has expanded its projects beyond literacy and education by adopting a resolution in 1989 to promote environmental concerns. And whereas Altrusa is a community-based, grassroots organization that seeks to solve problems in our backyards by encouraging participation in community and public affairs. And whereas busy Altrusans raise money for local charities, volunteer at battered women's shelters, help runaway teens, build houses for Habitat for Humanity, and so much more. And whereas it is fitting for Cedar Falls residents to recognize and support these selfless volunteers in their continued efforts to positively impact our community. Now, therefore, I, Robert M. Green, Mayor of Cedar Falls, do hereby proclaim October 22nd, 2022 as Altrusa Make a Difference Day in Cedar Falls. And I encourage citizens to join local Altrusans in promoting literacy in our community by collecting books for Head Start, a homeless shelter or women's shelter, by assisting with Boys or Girl Scouts reading badges, or any number of other ways to benefit the community. Signed this 11th day of October, 2022, Mayor Robert M. Green. So this proclamation is yours. Congratulations on your day.
Thank you.
And I'll give you 5 minutes to talk about your organization. Up to five. Up to 5 minutes.
Our Altrusa group meets May through December. We focus on literacy. Our main goal is to provide scholarships to people 22 years or older in school in Blackhawk County. And this past Saturday, we awarded 3 scholarships of $2,000 each. We also have a little library, and we have been donating books, and we have a Habitat for Humanity build with donations for Make a Difference Day and Adopt a Family at the holidays. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Amy. And with that, that takes us over to public forum, where speakers will have an opportunity to speak for up to 5 minutes on topics relative to or relevant to city business. Does anyone from the public wish to speak in public forum tonight? Okay, seeing none, then I will move us over to staff. Oh, so this is public forum.
If there's an item.
She's asking if it has to be on tonight's topic. It can be on anything for,
But I'm not on the agenda, is now the time?
Any topics relevant to city business? If
I
that's good.
actually have some.
Okay.
I apologize, I thought this was at the end of the meeting.
We'd moved that to the start of the meeting probably 4 months ago, so it is a change.
Okay, so sorry.
Oh, no worries, no worries. So you'll have up to 5 minutes to talk, and if you just please provide your name and address for the record, ma'am.
Just get my stuff together here. Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am Cherie Martinez, and I reside at 1124 Main Street. And I'm here today to address a condemnation proceeding that was filed and is pending. And the reason why I'm here is because I'm really not sure why we're in a condemnation proceeding. And I did not get notice for a condemnation proceeding related to a temporary easement. When you did your first round of giving notices for these things, you were looking at tearing our house down, and we were not part of temporary easement. So I did not get a chance back at that time to address this type of issue because we were in a different situation. So, but when our house was saved and our house was not torn down, the issue later then became temporary easement. So I'm here to explain a couple of things and to make you informed of what's been going on and hope that we can come to a resolution. And my biggest concern is not wasting people's time because we are not opposed to a temporary easement. And we have informed your city staff that we are not opposed to a temporary easement. So I just want to give you just a little bit of a kind of a background of what's happened. After we got through the period of our house, you wanting to tear down our house, then us saving the house, we did meet with your third-party representatives, and the person assigned to us was Justin. And Justin informed us that we were not required to do a temporary easement, and that if we did not do the temporary easement, they would just be working around our property. And we actually informed him that that's exactly what we would be doing, is not participating in the temporary easement. And not because we're uncooperative people, but because I work at home, and I was very concerned about the disruption. I do meetings by Zoom calls all day, and thinking about this construction being literally right outside the windows of our home, that was going to be a huge problem. And so we proceeded with, we were not going to do the temporary easement. Several months later, your city staff, I would like to use the word reneged because that's what it feels like to me, but they rescinded that representation made by Justin, and they informed us that they needed a city temporary easement and that the temporary easement was going to be necessary due to changes in the project. I don't know what changes those are, but that's the representation that was made. We have no problem, and we have notified them that we have no problem doing a temporary easement, but we will not sign faulty legal documents. There are things in the legal documents that are conflicting terms. The legal documents are not even on point with a temporary easement. They're legal documents that would be for the sale and acquisition of property. There's language in there that requires the signer to consent to the grading of the road and then shift liability to the homeowner for all grading of the road, any damages that would result for that. And then it goes on to have a further sentence that says that the $900 that you're going to pay us for a temporary easement will cover all damages related to grading of the road. First of all, that's an issue that is not related to the temporary easement, and nobody should be in a position that we're forced to sign paperwork with faulty language in it, conflicting terms. It is a non-enforceable document. It is nothing but shifting liability, confusing what's going on, and I could just go on and on with my concerns about the paperwork. But what we have been met with when we've asked them to update and to fix the paperwork is we've been met with that hundreds of people have already signed this paperwork and we are not going to change it. And if you don't sign the paperwork, we will take you to a condemnation proceeding. Well, they did that. They filed for condemnation. And so I'm here because we don't have a dispute about valuation. Condemnation is for settling disputes about valuation. We have a dispute about paperwork. On Thursday, commissioners are going to stand on Main Street in front of my house looking at valuation issues when there is nothing that is a valuation issue that's at stake in this case.
1 minute remaining.
Pardon me?
You have 1 minute remaining.
Okay.
5 minutes.
And I will jump ahead and say that we need to resolve this. We need the paperwork corrected, and what I'm asking you to do is to get the paperwork corrected so that we can sign it, and then we can get this dismissed and not further waste the time of the commissioners, the court, the sheriff's department, the lawyers that are involved in this, and the citizens who are impacted by it. This is an end around making an admission about the faulty paperwork because hundreds of people have signed it, but I'm not signing it, and I'm not being threatened with a condemnation to have to sign paperwork that's faulty in order to get the issue resolved. If I have to go and proceed with an injunction or some other thing, I'm going to do that because I'm not going to be manipulated into bad paperwork that is unenforceable, takes away my rights, diminishes all kinds of things, but ultimately is a shifting of liability and a shifting of any of the damages that could potentially happen out of the project. And since I'm standing here, I don't, this is...
Ms. Martinez, you're at time.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Does anyone else wish to speak for public comment tonight in public forum? Just provide name and address for the record, please.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm actually with Waypoint. I know I missed that proclamation. I was a couple minutes late, didn't realize the location had changed.
Excellent.
So I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of Waypoint. Really, is that okay if I do that really quick?
Yes, I'm going to allow that if council
Okay, I'm so sorry. I didn't know the locations had
Okay.
changed, so I just ran in.
And we did read the
Yep,
proclamation.
thank you so much. So I thank you for proclaiming October 19th as Gentlemen's Day. At Waypoint, we provide free and confidential services to anyone who's been affected by domestic violence.
I'll stop you there.
Yeah.
Because I don't want you to feel rushed.
Yeah.
So you have up to 5 minutes.
Okay, I don't think I'll take 5 minutes, but yeah. So we provide free and confidential services, like I said, to anyone who's been affected by domestic violence. We do have an office here in Black Hawk County. We have a drop-in office at the women's facility in Waterloo. Otherwise, we're all over in the community, whether that's at schools, in the courthouse, jails, homes, wherever anyone is willing to meet. We are there to support them with whatever needs they need or want in relation to their experience with domestic violence. So I just wanted to step up here really quick so I didn't miss a chance to thank you and to grab the proclamation.
Certainly. And could you give us the 1 minute infomercial on Gentleman Day and what that represents for you?
Yes. So October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So we kind of have different activities throughout the month, but we tend to focus on our Gentleman Campaign or Gentleman's Day. And that's just focusing more on the role of traditionally that the role of fixing domestic violence is generally put on women who are statistically more likely to be a victim of domestic violence. Not always, it can impact all genders. But Gentlemen's Day kind of refers to putting that responsibility and role on men and gentlemen to kind of take the part in ending and resolving things like gender violence and domestic violence.
Excellent. Well, thank you. You said it way better than I did earlier.
I'm not even going to remember what I said, but thank you.
Well, thank you so much for
Yes.
joining us tonight. And I wish we didn't have to have the day.
Yeah.
But certainly here in support of you and your organization for your work to improve the lives of women.
Yep.
So,
So perfect. Thank you so much.
yes, ma'am. Does anyone else wish to speak in public forum tonight? Okay, seeing none, then for closing public forum tonight, I'll bring us over to staff updates. So, Mr. Gaines, do you have any updates for us tonight? And welcome back.
Thanks, Mayor. The only announcement that I really have is 3 weeks from tonight will be our next city council meeting, November 7th, and we will be back in the city council chambers. That should be all ready to go by then, so.
Okay, so next time you come to a council meeting, then go to City Hall and you'll be all set. Okay, so if that's all for staff updates, then I'll bring us over to the special order of business. And that is item 5, which is a public hearing on proposed amendments to section 18-235 and section 26-4C of the Code of Ordinances relative to voting threshold required to override Planning and Zoning Commission. Is there a motion to receive and file the proof of publication?
Moved. Second.
Motion and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? That passes. And Madam Clerk, do we have any written communications filed?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. For staff comments tonight, we have Director Sheets, who will be providing us some background on the proposal.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, I will just give a little bit of background. As the mayor said, I will start off with council actions so far and discussion. Then I will recap some of the information that we went over at the committee meeting and some of the slides showing then the proposed changes. Although you have them in your packet, they're probably a little bit easier to read, but we'll put it up on the screen here. And then I did just want to note that the staff report does include some additional information from the committee discussion. There was a clarifying question about the difference between text amendments and map amendments, so we tried to give some examples in the staff report. There were also some concerns expressed about the Planning and Zoning Commission discussion on items, so we included the history of the items that were discussed and a little bit about where those landed with their recommendations. I don't plan to go over that information tonight, but certainly it's all there for council to discuss. So just by way of background, at the last meeting, we set the public hearing, which we're having tonight. Prior to that, the Community Development Committee meeting talked a little bit about the code provisions, what's in those, the history, a little bit of research that staff did, some options that we identified, ultimately asking staff to bring forward an ordinance change. And that this item was referred back in August. So just a recap of some of the information that was provided at the committee meeting on September 16th. One item that we noted in a slide here was that we had, in reviewing other staff reports, understood that the Iowa Code might have previously had a requirement related to a voting threshold and some type of supermajority threshold. And upon further research that we did, city staff, as well as a consultation to the Legislative Services Agency, does not appear that there was such a requirement in the Iowa Code at any time in the past. So a correction on that item. But also some history with this topic. This is not the first time that it's coming up for discussion. In November of 1998, the Planning and Zoning Commission discussed it, decided that they didn't think that any changes were necessary, and so that item ended. But then in 2002 to 2003, there was quite a bit of discussion about this item. The Planning and Zoning Commission ended up recommending that we maintain in the code the 3/4 voting threshold in the zoning chapter and actually increase in the planning chapter from the 2/3 that was there to 3/4 majority, so that both sections were consistent. That moved forward to City Council, and ultimately the council adopted a 2/3 majority voting threshold in both of those provisions, after first passing a simple majority, then a mayor veto, and then reconsideration. We did just a little bit of research. Here are the communities that we reached out to or reviewed their ordinances, and we provided this at the committee meeting just to show a little bit about what others are doing. This is by no means comprehensive research about all of the municipalities, but gives us a feel for maybe some of the comparable municipalities about where they're standing on whether zoning or a text amendment or a map amendment to the zoning code, whether that required any higher than a simple majority vote by the council in the case that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended denial. So to move into the proposed ordinance changes, again, this is in the packet, but up on the screen, hopefully mostly legible. The bottom part of this provision, this is section 18, which is related to the Planning and Zoning Commission's powers. And the bottom part is where that 2/3 majority vote came into play. And so the proposal is to strike that particular sentence, add a sentence that just clarifies that amendments or modifications to the comprehensive plan, because this is a section about the comp plan, just need a regular vote by the council. So we thought that clarifying sentence might just help. So that's why that is suggested. Now, there are two other amendments requested while we're looking at this particular paragraph of the code. Staff would like to recommend two other potential amendments, and those are, the first one listed there is changing the day's notice to be consistent with other sections of our zoning code where we have notice requirements for a public hearing, for a text amendment or a map amendment, or for the Board of Adjustment for their meetings. Right now in our zoning code, it's a minimum of 7 days and a maximum of 14 days, which exceeds the state code requirement, which is 4 and 20. So we would still meet the state provisions. So we're asking just for that consistency so that it doesn't get confusing depending on what you're doing. And then also, if council feels that we should remove the majority vote for council, then it seems appropriate to suggest that the Planning and Zoning Commission not have a 2/3 majority vote requirement on their recommendation. The other section that would be up for discussion tonight would be section 26, that is considered our zoning code. And in that section 26-4, talking about amendments to the chapter, whether it's a text amendment or a map amendment to the zoning, we're suggesting in order to remove the 2/3 majority vote that we simply strike the first sentence of that paragraph that speaks to that. So in talking about some of the considerations, these are listed in the staff report. I will quickly go through them. There are certainly probably other ones that the council might want to discuss. Some of these actually came up by council members, but I just wanted to note some of those. This change would make the city council's vote independent of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I think that was mentioned by a council member. It would align with state code since there is no provision in the code, nor has there been. The change would appear to align with some other Iowa communities. Like I mentioned, we didn't do full research on all communities, but from our sampling, it looks to align with what many are doing. One other consideration would be to think about whether this potentially devalues the Planning and Zoning Commission's current role for our community. Our Planning and Zoning Commission very methodically considers things that come in front of them. They talk with the public. Their interaction at a public meeting allows for unlimited comment period. Also, there might be multiple comments as the Planning and Zoning Commission works through an issue or questions or technical things about that. So they're often pretty deliberative about any changes that come forward to them and have pretty thoughtful discussion. The change at this time might be tied to a specific issue versus a trend over time. And when I say trend over time, I mean usually we're talking about anywhere from the 2 to 3 years. We monitor issues with the zoning code. We bring those forward if we see them happening in a variety of situations and cases, not just a particular section of the code. And then the other thing to think about is that comprehensive plans and zoning ordinances are intended to provide stability in the market due to the predictability of the regulations, that the regulations don't change a whole lot. And so if the regulation might have more possibility of changing depending on the council at the time, I think it was noted in a previous discussion concern about whether the regulations might flip back and forth a little bit more frequently. And so we wouldn't achieve that predictability in the marketplace. So those might be some things to consider, and again, there might be others that the council has in mind. At the committee meeting, I did show this slide as well, as we talked with the city attorney about what would it take to pass this item tonight when the council votes, and a simple majority vote is all that is needed to pass either one of these sections. And so that concludes my comments, and leave it to the council.
Okay, and with the close of the staff comments, I'll now open it up for public comments. If anyone from the public would like to speak during this hearing. Okay, seeing none, then I'll bring it over to the council after considering the public hearing closed. And we're now at 5E, which is passing an ordinance amending 1823.5, powers and duties of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the Code of Ordinances relative to removing 2/3 majority vote required by City Council to approve amendments to the city's comprehensive plan that are disapproved by the Planning and Zoning Commission upon its first consideration. Is there a motion to approve? Did everyone jump at once? Okay. No motion?
I motion.
Okay, I thought there'd be a motion. So motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. And open for council discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilor Cruz.
due to the fact we have two counselors, one is absent and not on Zoom, the other's on Zoom, that quite often, almost every time, has difficulty hearing and partaking in the discussion. I'd like to motion to continue this until our next meeting.
So motion to postpone
Postpone
until
and
the next
continue.
meeting. Okay, is there a second?
So it would be to
Continuation?
continue the hearing, because this is a
Okay.
public hearing.
Okay, so continue the public hearing. All right.
Second.
Motion and seconded.
I thought the hearing was closed, excuse me.
Did Mayor close the hearing? I didn't hear
I
that.
did close, in order to get to the council.
Okay, so
I had to.
it'd be
right?
postponed the vote to a definite time then.
Okay. So yes, we concluded the public hearing aspect of it, so now it's just the council side.
Yep, that'd be appropriate. Yep.
Okay. So where are we at with that? Motion and, was there a second?
Second down there.
Okay, so there was a second and open for discussion.
Just point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
So the current motion was to continue the public hearing, but we cannot because it's been closed. Would we change the motion on the floor?
Actually, I think the motion was to postpone, and I tried to
Right.
correct it to continue the hearing. The original motion was correct,
Yeah. So the original motion to continue the hearing.
to postpone the vote. That's what I heard. Why don't you restate your motion?
Yeah.
I'd like to postpone whatever component makes sense, because we're changing city policy, and I think we owe it to the
I
citizens.
don't want to get into a
have proper
discussion
debate.
about it at this point. You're just giving the motion. So the motion is to postpone.
If that's what
In-
legal
to the next
counsel
meeting.
says, then that's what
Okay.
we're doing.
So that's the motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion and second, now open for discussion.
I feel it's important that we have our counselors here in person to discuss. We're changing city policy, and we owe it to our citizens to have a proper debate that everybody can hear, partake, and they can hear the nuances of the discussion.
Okay. With that, I would say for Gil Schultz, Councilor Schultz, can you hear us?
I can hear, can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
I can hear you on and off.
So this is a
the
real
point.
problem with electronic meetings. And if Gil Schultz is here, he's here. He signed in, he said that he's present, so he is here.
I am reinforcing the fact, having been on Zoom multiple times, you cut in and out, and I'm putting that forth as part of my argument and part of my request. Susan is not here to debate at all, and so that's my point.
Councilor Harding?
I would be glad to postpone, but I would like to say that the reason to postpone is because it will be a tie, and it will fail, and then it will be reconsidered, and then we'll have to do it again. So we might as well postpone so that we can have semi-finality on the issue. And so I don't think we need to dance around and say, oh, it's because of Zoom and it's because of this. It's because it's 3-3. So I'll support your postponement by throwing out the real reason.
I agree with Simon. Excuse me, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilor.
I agree with Simon. We
Okay.
need to postpone it till the 7th.
All right, so any other discussion for postponement? So,
Mayor?
yes.
So the motion would be to postpone to a definite time, and we haven't established a time
A
yet.
time of the 7th, so the next council meeting?
Postpone to when all members can be here in person.
Which we have to, we have to put it on the agenda. We don't know for
Okay.
sure. So it has to be the next meeting, and if you want to
we could-
postpone again, you can.
Duly noted. Okay, to November 7th.
Okay, so postpone to November 7th. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All right, so it's been motion and second to postpone. Is this a voice vote?
Voice vote.
Okay, so all in favor of postponement until the 7th, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that passes, and this item
Aye.
5, okay, thanks, Gil. Item 5E is postponed. Now going on to item F, this is passing an ordinance amending Chapter 26 zoning code ordinances relative to removing the two-thirds majority vote by City Council to approve zoning amendments that are disapproved by the Planning and Zoning Commission upon its first consideration. Is there a motion to approve this item?
Aye. Yes.
Motion, okay, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and seconded. Need more than a head nod, Councilmember Cyrus.
Oh, second.
Okay, we had the second already, but just so you know, like, I do want to record.
I would also motion to postpone this to November 7th.
Okay,
Second.
For due reasons stated already.
motion and seconded. And any additional discussion or same reasons hold?
Same reasons hold for me.
Okay, anything else? Okay, so motion and seconded, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll postpone this to the next item, and Councilmember Schultz, I'll try to give a little bit of delay next time, so you have more time to jump in there.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Okay, so that moves us out of special order of business and over into old business, which item 6 is passing ordinance 3018, amending Chapter 24 Utilities of the Code of Ordinances relative to establishing the 27th Street Sanitary Sewer Extension District upon its second consideration. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any council discussion on this? Seeing none. Any from the public? Okay, also seeing none. So motion and seconded and requires a roll call vote.
Cruz,
Aye.
Harding,
Aye.
Ganfield,
Aye.
Sires,
Aye.
Dunn,
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And so that moves us as an approval over to the consent calendar, where these items will be acted upon on a single motion without separate discussion unless someone from the council or public requests that a specific item be considered separately. Does any council member request to pull an item 7 through 13?
Number 9.
Number 9, okay. And any others? Any from the public? Okay, and with that, then is there a motion to approve those items minus number 9?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Oh, sorry, Gil. No opposition, so that does pass. And that takes us to item 9, which is approving the following recommendations of the mayor relative to the appointment of members to the boards and commissions. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Open for discussion. Councilmember Cruz?
Mr. Mayor, I have no problem with the reappointment of Brad Leeper, but for Ms. Hafferman, I had the opportunity to go back a year ago and look at her general application for appointment, and the answer to one of her questions gives me a bit of pause. It was specifically number 4, where it's asked, or it states, staff is charged with using the ordinances and their professional experience to evaluate proposals on the factors set forth in city ordinances and adopted plans. And it goes on, how would you be part of that dialogue? And part of her answer states, I use data to inform, but not to drive my opinions. My concern is that planning and zoning is a data-driven decision-making organization. So when someone says they use data to inform but not drive, it becomes an opinion. So I think that's a conflict of decision-making process, and I'd have to decline to approve her reappointment.
Okay. Any other comments? All right, so with that, then it's been motioned and seconded to receive and file recommendations for the appointment of Mr. Leeper and Ms. Gribovich. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Aye.
That does pass. Thank you. So moving on, that takes us out of the consent calendar. The resolution calendar, and these items will be acted upon by a roll call vote on a single motion without separate discussion, unless someone from the council or the public requests that a specific item be considered separately. Is there, let's see, we have items 14 through 24. Does any council member request or pull one of those items, one or more? Okay, seeing
Mayor?
none. Yes, Councilmember Cruz.
Double check here. Item number 24.
Item 24, okay. And Councilmember Schultz, anything you want to pull tonight?
Nothing for me.
Okay, thank you. Any from the public that you'd wish to pull for separate discussion, aside from 24? Okay, so those items show up on your screen there, and for the resolution calendar, we'll entertain a motion to approve all items minus 24.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded, and this requires a roll call vote.
Cruz,
Aye.
Harding,
Aye.
Ganfield,
Aye.
Sires,
Aye.
Dunn,
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And that takes us over to item 24, a resolution setting November 7th, 2022 as the date of public hearing on proposed amendments to Chapter 26 zoning of the Code of Ordinances relative to eliminating the shared parking requirement and increasing the residential parking requirements in the downtown character district to 1 parking space per bedroom. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. And Councilmember Cruz?
Similar to what we did here a few meetings ago where we postponed setting a date for an item coming back from planning and zoning until we resolve the supermajority majority discussion, I motion that this be set for a future date after that takes place, like we did the other item.
And in the previous time, did we set a date for that, or did we just say it to a?
We kept it open under your advice.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was a definite time after consideration of the amendments to the ordinance. So it wasn't a date, but it was a specific
Linkage.
yeah, period.
So would that be the linkage for the 2/3 that we just talked about, like to have those resolved first?
Correct. That's what we implied the previous time where we postponed until
Okay.
resolution of the other item.
Okay. So does that make sense to council, what's being asked?
It's fine.
Okay. So the motion on the floor is to postpone the setting of that resolution, if I understand right, until after that item is resolved.
Other items resolved.
Or other items resolved. But other items meaning the 2/3 votes.
So supermajority, majority
Okay.
discussion.
Okay, great. All right, so does anyone from the public wish to speak on the item as
Excuse me,
well?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
we need a second on that motion.
Oh, we do?
Second.
Yeah, it's motion and seconded. Now it's open. Does any council member first wish to, they have questions on it? Okay, does anyone from the public want to talk about it? Okay, so back to council for any final comments before we take a vote. Okay, so it's been motioned and seconded to postpone the date until after the 2/3 supermajority issue is resolved. And this requires a roll call vote.
Voice vote.
Voice, all right, thanks. This requires a voice vote. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, excellent. So that does pass. So we will postpone that until after the 2/3 supermajority question is resolved. And that takes us over to ordinances, which is the first, 25 is passing an ordinance amending Chapter 16 offenses and miscellaneous provisions of the Code of Ordinances relative to the use of consumer fireworks within city limits upon its first consideration. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. And for discussion tonight, do we have a staff presentation? I don't recall if we had anything. We were those. It was in the council packet. I've talked about it previously in our committee meeting last time. So is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We,
Did we do that already?
We have public comment or no?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm a little off tonight.
We forgive you. We still like you.
Thanks. So it's been motioned and seconded. And open it for any public comment tonight? Want to talk about this ordinance? Okay, and then bringing it over to council.
I just had a question. Not sure if I'm ready to make a motion. If I have to, stop me with a point of order. Throwing out the idea of talking, if you set the date at December 31st, then, all the way up to December 31st, correct? It could be any time that year. You're setting it for the previous year. Would it be better to set the date between January and March 1st of the year? The reason I throw that out there is because then, one, it's always set by a new council on an election year. And two, it would be really weird if we set the dates for the following year before the previous, so we could talk about it at goal setting, and then we could set them in January or February. So that still gives you, anywhere from, depending on when you set it, 6 months to 4 months away, plenty of notice. So I guess I just convinced myself, so I'll just go ahead and throw out a motion that I would amend this ordinance to state that reflect what I said. The dates would be set between January 1st and March 1st of the year of that July 4th.
Okay, so it's a motion to, I don't have the item in front of me, but the motion is to strike the December 31st date. Just which is the final date to decide what extra days you might have the next year.
Correct.
So it's to change that date?
To change that date to have that set sometime between January 1st and March 1st of the actual year of the 4th.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and seconded.
And
do I understand the reason for the January 1st start is so that the previous council doesn't try to do it?
It's multifold. I was thinking about it after someone mentioned it to me, and it's so that a new council could do it. That's one reason, but also just because if we have it's just a set window. It's the same year. It's not going to happen, in June the year before or October. Which I guess that's not bad, but to me it just makes more sense to do it closer to the date. I can see both sides, and I won't cry if it doesn't pass. It just makes more sense to me, so I changed it.
Okay, well, it's motioned and seconded for the amendment itself for January 1st to March 1st as that date window. Is there any other discussion from council on that?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Cruz?
I would just ask Director Birdie if that sounds reasonable to you.
Yeah, that sounds good. And actually, we would just really want an end date that is decided by, and March 1st is fine. Plenty of time for us to put on any kind of campaign advertising those dates, so.
And for police scheduling and stuff, too?
Yes,
that's not an
absolutely.
issue. Okay.
That's still plenty of time.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Gamble.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to voice my opinion on it. I think surrounding some opportunity for discussion, potentially even at goal setting each year, I think is a better option. So keeping it no later than the last of the year provides ample time to prep for next year. I don't think it needs to be a contentious issue. I doubt this one would become that key issue, but I hope it wouldn't. So I guess I'd be in favor of leaving it no later than the end of the year. That way we've got plenty of heads up and to surround it around goal setting if there's opportunity to talk about strategic placement of any days. That's my 2 cents, that's all.
Yeah, the one issue with that would be if it's goal setting, typically we have the newer, the elected councilors are kind of sort of leading the charge as what we want to have happen next year. But if the final date is the 31st of December, you're still relying on the previous council to enact that, and there's no guarantee of it.
Right.
I mean, you'd hope that wouldn't come up, but just to be aware that there could be some dynamics there for that.
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you. Yes, Councilor Harding?
Just one more thing, and then I'll be done. I get what you're saying, and it does make sense, and I would hope it wouldn't be contentious, but to me, this just takes that out of it, that aspect out of new council members having to rely on a vote. I've learned that not to rely on that. So try to just make it as straightforward as possible. So anyway, but I get your logic.
Okay. So this is for the amendment only. Yes, Councilmember Cruz?
I was just thinking between the two points there, we could still talk about a goal setting. The new counselors will be there. We would actually meet and do any changing January 1st to March 1st.
I
So
think
it
that's a
covers
good idea.
both, I think.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
So there'll be some certainty there, or near.
Yeah, the January to,
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, just a point of privilege then.
Yeah, it's,
Sorry, I'll give you 1 second, Gil. I want to have that reduced to writing, at least for Jackie's benefit, so that we know exactly what this ordinance is changing to tonight. So the sentence that reads, "An additional day of allowed use may be designated by resolution of council if adopted no later than the last day of December each year to apply to the following calendar year," has to be changed in what fashion in this motion?
With Kevin guiding me so that if I mess up, it's his fault. I would say that we change, can you scoot that over? That we would change just that sentence. An additional day of allowed use may be designated by resolution of council if adopted no later than March 1st, between the dates of January 1st and March 1st, the same calendar year.
I would add January 1st to March 1st each year to apply to the same calendar year.
You win. I agree with that.
You got that, Madam Clerk?
Yes, I do, thank you.
Okay.
Could-
So that motion was already on the floor. And so it was just a clarification of that motion, so we're not going to do a second re-motion of it. But, yeah, so the language is okay with everybody?
Could we have it read back just so we're sure? Do you mind?
Oh, please, your
Certainly.
privilege. Go right ahead.
Certainly. So the previous language, and then between the dates of January 1st and March 1st, each year to apply to the same calendar year.
Okay, I'm good with that.
All right. So anything else, discussion for that amendment? All right, is anyone from the public want to comment on the amendment only? Okay, so it's been motioned and seconded for this, just to add this new amendment in. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
aye.
Nay.
Okay, so that does pass. To bring us back into that original motion as amended for Chapter 16 offenses, miscellaneous provisions of the Code of Ordinances for consumer fireworks within city limits as amended to January 1st to March 1st.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Ganfield.
I would move to amend an additional day to any additional days, as that was initially how it was sent out of committee.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and seconded to change it from day to
From
any consecutive day, or any
any-
additional days.
Any additional days
Yeah.
of allowed use.
And my understanding is that would be to just allow multiple, right?
That's just how
So
it
it's
came
not
out of
just one.
committee.
Yeah, okay.
And I think the opinion of council at that time, legal counsel, was that if we do one day or days, we don't have to change the code by ordinance. It's reflected the way the code is. We could do 1 or 2 days.
Just as a
without-
resolution.
Correct.
Yep. Okay. So was there a second already for that?
There was.
The motion and seconded. Open for additional discussion. Anything else to?
So, Mr. Mayor, I'm so sorry. When we started this whole conversation, I feel like there was a focus on, one, matching our neighbor, because there was confusion there. And at least in my book, I wanted to stick with what I felt public safety, the folks that actually do the enforcement of this ordinance or violation of the ordinance, feels would be best in order for them to tackle the job. Again, I'll say it, I am not a big fireworks person. I'm just looking at a way to have a window for people to use it, because we do have a state law saying you can. It's sold here in the Cedar Falls, in our town. So I guess what I'm getting at is, I feel like we're getting very far away from what we talked about at the beginning when we met with our neighbors in Waterloo. I guess that's my concern, is we don't, is this leaving us open to have, we're going to have multiple days? Is that what we're saying here? Or what? Because I thought we were going to try to stick to 3, and now why are we changing it to days?
I can answer
Councilmember
that
Canfield?
point, yeah. With the committee meeting that I chaired last meeting,
Yeah.
we sent any additional days of allowed use may be designated by resolution of council. So this was what you voted for when we met in committee. It does open the opportunity in the future, should it be wise for our community, to add any days without having to go through the process of changing the law every single year. It would provide us the opportunity to set by resolution in that new window of January to March, any days that we're allowing. What could be construed there is if the 3rd and 4th is, let's say, a Wednesday, Thursday, and you wanted to provide Friday and Saturday, you'd have to change the law to not have it skip Friday. This could provide a simplicity in the future, should you want to say those 4 days may be allowed without having to change the law. That was the reason for any additional days. It's not the intention to go towards mass shooting of fireworks. So-
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember.
Are we also saying, though, it can be any time, like throughout the year? Or are we still having the window? And I apologize, I was sitting in a truck at a rugby game, so my hearing wasn't the best then. So,
By state law, there's a limit to June, well, the sale is June 1st to July 8th, if I remember right.
Sale and use. So it's a big period, June through July, and there's a period in December as well.
And does that include the use then?
Yes.
Not just the sale? Okay,
Yes.
yeah, so that is a limited window already by the state, that it would be illegal, like we couldn't do additional days in March.
Sure.
Patrick's Day or whatever.
Sure.
It had to be within that window.
Yes, but
By the way, on that point, my memory, I didn't review the minutes, was any additional day, singular, and it seemed to add confusion, and so that's why I used an additional day. There was never any discussion that I recall that the council voted there would be any additional days, plural. If I misremembered that, I apologize for that.
no problem, not to call anybody out, but that's what is in the minutes, is any additional days.
Okay.
And to your point, theoretically, yeah, that could mean there were other days within that state allotted window, but not beyond that, for sure.
my concern, again, is just that we stick to the original intention, or at least my vote sticks to the original intention of compromising, giving a window of opportunity for people that want to do this to use them, hopefully respectfully, and also to aid in our public safety to enforce, which was, and from the conversations we've had, was hard to do previously. So I feel like the more window for possible, I just want to stick to the day. One day is good, but I guess that's just my feelings.
Right.
Okay. And I'll say too that I've been, as this has been developed and I've been looking to bring it to council again, I've been talking with Mayor Hart about it and providing him with the information for him to bring to his council. And these aren't massive changes, but more tweaks. And the only one question I would have would be those additional days. Like, what does that mean? I think 3rd and 4th is going to be a given for both cities, is my guess. But it's that additional, like, do we put in stone the 5th again this year? I just don't think it makes sense. But maybe it does make sense to have one more day. So we would want to do our very best to make sure that Waterloo's on board with these changes as well, and that we're matching as much as possible for the sake of enforcement. That's a huge part for me too, a huge consideration.
And Mr. Mayor, am I wrong in understanding that this is just considering another day?
Exactly.
So we may not have another day. It may just be if we decide the 3rd and the 4th, that's good enough for the party.
Yep.
Okay.
And it would require a council resolution to make
Okay.
any changes.
Yep.
Or additions, I'm sorry. Okay, so where are we at? Is it just the amendment still
Yep.
for the days?
I guess
Yeah.
just to clarify, maybe for the public and some of us, that this makes our code more flexible without having to do ordinance changes by using the language days. Days could be 0 days,
While also still providing that,
3rd and 4th.
that projection to the public that yes, fireworks will be allowed. It's just how much extra will we allow, if any. Okay, thank you. That's a very good.
And for clarity, right now, no additional days are allowed.
Right.
Even with this passing, there will be none allowed until we meet on it again by resolution setting any additional potential days
And that would
for
be
every
March.
single year.
Yep, and if it passes, then it'd be approved sometime between March, or January 1st and March 1st.
Correct.
Okay. So any other comments for that amendment for adding the days language? And the council understands what that means then. So it's been motioned and seconded for this new amendment. All in favor of the new amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Hey.
Okay, so that passes as well. Brings us back to the
Aye.
original. Gil's there. Thank you, Gil. Adding back to the original amendment, or excuse me, the original motion on item 25. So we're back to that, passing the ordinance, amending Chapter 16 offenses and miscellaneous provisions relative to the use of consumer fireworks within city limits as amended. Any further discussion?
Just a point of order,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor. Can we clarify with Councilmember Schultz what his vote was, in affirmative or negative? Just because of the timing? I just
Well,
wanted to make
it's
sure
a
how it
voice
was
vote,
recorded.
So it's not.
So that amendment? Oh, okay.
If it was a roll call vote, then yes, definitely.
Okay.
But this was just a voice vote, so the goal.
Okay, I just want to make sure we had it correct, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the point. Does anyone from the public wish to speak on this item as amended? Okay, seeing none. Any final council comments? Okay, so it's been motioned and seconded to pass this ordinance as amended and requires a roll call vote.
Cruz,
Aye.
Harding,
Aye.
Canfield,
Aye.
Sires,
Aye.
Dunn,
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I appreciate everybody's willingness to compromise a bit to get the best for what we want for everyone here. Okay, now moving over to bills and claims. Is there a motion to approve the bills and claims for October 17th?
Second.
Motion and seconded. All in favor, no, excuse me, this requires a roll call vote. Any discussion first? Okay, any from the public? Then this requires a roll call vote.
Cruz,
Aye.
Harding,
Aye.
Canfield,
Aye.
Sires,
Aye.
Dunn,
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And over to council referrals. Do we have any tonight for discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Dunn.
As I emailed, or I mentioned, I am going to bring up a referral or proposal for referral for referring to committee, re-implementing our paid parking system, I guess more referring what our options might be for implementing our paid parking system, as we have had discussion about our parking ramp or possible parking ramp. I'm trying to figure out which committee, because I figured you'd want to know that. Would it be admin committee that I'm referring it to?
Yeah.
Okay. So my referrals to refer to admin committee, what are the options for implementing paid parking?
Okay, so that motion's on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Harding. Any council discussion?
Mayor, is that really FBO?
Yeah.
I think it should be FBO per your sheet, not admin.
Oh, I apologize. I heard the same thing. So yeah, FBO committee. So we're not sending things to admin committee these days.
And just to clarify, re-implementing paid parking downtown?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes. Back to downtown.
Okay, so that's motioned and seconded. And it changed a tiny bit from the original motion. Any concerns there?
No concern with it.
Okay.
I do have a question. It would just be referred to committee about the possibilities of doing that and how we would do it, the logistics and timeline possibly. Is that what you mean, or is this like a referral to actually do it?
No, it's to get the discussion going as to
Okay.
what are
What are our
I apologize, in the last few years, it's like I have a hard time remembering where we ended. So what are the options and
Okay.
how would we get it going back, back again?
Okay.
Yeah, and all the FBO committee could do is provide a recommendation back to council, so they can't force the implementation back.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Cruz.
So I'm assuming this would not include parking ramp paid options. It would just be street and parking lots that we,
For me to even, to me, the discussion of a possible parking ramp, in order to move forward on that, we need to first, I think, I'd like to know how we would start by just getting the paid parking system going, because without that, a parking ramp, why even talk about it if we're not going to have paid parking in my book?
Yeah.
So my understanding is this would then not cover the parking
Right.
ramp.
Because if we go down the road of a parking ramp, we may adjust the other parking anyway.
This is not, in my amendment, or my referral, it's not to talk about necessarily a paid, or a parking ramp, it's to talk about the parking system, similar to what we've had, if not the same, but what are the options for getting that going again?
Okay.
All right, so any further discussion for making that referral vote? Okay, so there's a motion to refer to committee options for reimplementing the paid parking system in the downtown area. Did I capture that adequately? Okay, so all in favor of this referral, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
And Gil, which were you?
I'm an aye.
An aye, okay, great. So that does pass, and that'll be referred to the FBO Committee, Finance and Business Operations. Excellent. Any other council referrals tonight? Okay, seeing none, then do we have any updates or announcements this evening?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Cyrus.
I just have one quick one. I have a shout out to my granddaughter, Kendra. She's excellent at anything she puts her mind to. She's having a birthday party tonight, and I'm going to get over there as quick as I can. Happy birthday, Kendra. That's it.
All right, thank you. Any city-related announcements or updates tonight? Seeing none, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Motion is seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much. And just remember, council chambers at City Hall. Look forward to seeing you there. Thank you. Have a great night, everybody.